Identifying.
Standby one. Let's go.
You're about to experience the uncensored conversations, stimulating wit, and the thought-provoking wisdom. Bold, raw, and uncut. Right now, on the LanceScurv Show.
Black women and girls are missing, and no one seems to care. It's been about a week since Twitter user @BlackMarvelGirl set the internet on fire, garnering 35,000 retweets in less than 12 hours about 8 teenage girls who went missing in the Washington, D.C. area. Several media outlets, including Essence and Teen Vogue, began to write about the topic, discovering that in January, there were as many as 15 open cases of missing Black and Latina girls in the D.C. area, getting a little more than local media coverage and some tweets from the police department. Although this number is alarming, it speaks to a much larger issue going on in our country that is failing to make top story or evening news programs. Black women and girls are missing, and no one is doing anything about it. In July of 2014, it was reported that more than 64,000 Black women were missing in the United States. Although all of the women missing can't be attributed to foul play, the lack of media exposure when discussing disappearances of Black and brown people is shameful. It was the late great journalist Gwen Ifill who first coined the phrase missing white woman syndrome. Simply put, it is a term coined by social scientists to describe the extensive media coverage, especially in television, of missing person cases that involve young, white, upper middle class women or girls. Sociologists define the phenomenon as an undue focus on young white women who disappear, with the disproportionate degree of media coverage they receive being compared to cases concerning missing women of other ethnicities, socioeconomic classes, or with missing males. When we look at the overall picture of the missing, Black people account for nearly 40%, while only making up 13% of the total population. The media coverage on the missing, however, is quite the opposite. The press is 4 more times more likely to report when a white person goes missing versus someone who is Black or brown. These numbers are even more dire when the missing is a Black woman. It is easy to name the stories of Natalie Holloway, Elizabeth Smart, John Bennett Ramsey, and countless other white women and girls who went missing, taking over international headlines, causing white communities to assemble search teams and raise money as they looked for their loved ones. Yet the missing Black and brown women seemingly get lost as a quick segment on the local news, with few gathering for community vigils. Sadly, their stories quickly become yesterday's tragedy. Relisha Rudd comes to mind when thinking about the disparity in coverage of the missing Black women and girls. The only major outlet for many months willing to cover the story was the Washington Post, in addition to several other Black media outlets. Even as the story grew, major networks failed to cover the story in comparison to the disappearances of white girls. To date, Relisha's body has never been found, and although D.C. police decided to reopen the search in April of 2016, it looks as though Relisha will become another memory of the past. Relisha Rudd's story is the perfect example of how the lack of media coverage is not by chance as much as it seems to be by design. The way the media chooses to handle missing persons cases dealing with minorities directly correlates with the way that the police investigate them. How often do you see an Amber Alert when the child is Black or brown versus when the child is white? Social workers in Relisha's case excused her over 30 days of absences by a Dr. Tatum without ever following up on if he was an actual doctor. Dr. Tatum was really a man named Khalil Tatum, who police determined was her actual captor. The lack of follow-up and follow-through on those whose jobs it is to protect and serve the minority often lets us slip through the cracks, labeling black children as runaways or truants instead of captives. When a child is listed as a runaway, they are not provided the same attention as one listed as being kidnapped or missing. This in turn stops the media from treating it as such, leaving the families of the missing little support to find their loved ones. Furthermore, this inaction by police makes black and brown women easy targets for human sex trafficking, which correlates with the statistics showing that 40.4% of victims are black women in comparison to white women, which are 26%. We often see people saying all lives matter, yet are silent when the lives of black and brown people are the main concern. America has a history of anti-black systems and institutions, and the media has been no different in the telling of our stories, especially around those who are missing. It is now that we must, as a community, come together as we have countless times before and be a voice for the missing. The stories of Renisha McBride, Corrine Gaines, and Sandra Bland could have also stayed local news if the power of black Twitter had not made them national topics of concern. It is time for us now to show up and search for our missing the way that we protest against police brutality. Without those series of tweets from @Black Marvel Girl, this story may not have ever seen the attention that it is currently getting. Even still, with so many now starting to get involved in coverage and attention, the majority of the outlets reporting these cases are those with a predominantly African American audience and has yet to get the attention of major network news. As of today, another 2 black girls have gone missing in the D.C. area with, not surprisingly, little coverage outside the local news. We can no longer sit silent while our people continue to go missing. It is time to speak up, get out, and find our missing girls. George M. Johnson is a journalist and activist based in the Washington, D.C. area, has written for Ebony.com, The Griot, JetPride.com, TheBody.com, and The Huffington Post on the topics of health, race, gender, sex, and education. Follow him on Twitter @IamJM Johnson. That was an article on The Griot. I'm not that brilliant, y'all, but I had to read it. I didn't want to talk about a celebrity tonight. I didn't want to talk about a coon tonight. I didn't want to talk about any of the other distractions that happen out there. This is very important that we tithe our time in cyberspace. And I don't mean just 1/10. It should be the majority of what we do. We have to gain awareness on different issues. We need to use this for that purpose. That was a long article somewhat. I'm not going to keep this too long, but I wanted to share that and read it out. That way you don't have to pick it up and read it yourself. But one thing I think we should do in our own communities, we have to look out for each other, right? And we say that and it's easier said than done. But as nosy as we have people in our own community, how is it that across the country, 64,000 people, women and girls, 64,000 women and girls are missing? 64,000. Now, you do the math. I'm not near a calculator right now, and it's the wee hours, and I'm not thinking too much or too hard. But divide 64,000 into the 50 states. Right? Now, understand that whatever number you come up with is going to be really monumental. It's going to be crazy. But understand the bulk of that number is not going to be in Alaska. The bulk of that number is not going to be in Hawaii. is going to be in the continental United States. The bulk of that number is not going to be in Montana. The bulk of that number is not going to be in Idaho because there are not too many of us in those areas, although we are everywhere. So I'm thinking major cities, places where there's a higher population of us. There's got to be a lot of those who are missing in Atlanta. And of course, D.C., of course, Miami possibly, Dallas, Houston, L.A., New York, Philadelphia. You know, I mean, come on now. So I do believe, it's my theory, and I haven't looked at any chart. I'm going by this, but common sense tells me that probably within the bigger cities, in the more populated areas, and the areas that have us, I mean, it could be down in South Carolina in a smaller place, right? Because we're there too. And I'm quite sure it would still shock us where we've gone missing. Hey, Seattle, Washington, why not? We're up there too. So we need to use our eyes whenever we see people with children and the child doesn't look too happy, or they may be struggling, or they may show fear. What about the case there? I think it was in Cleveland, Ohio, where you had the 4 young ladies kidnapped for 10 years, was it? 10 or 20 years? 10 years, right? This is more common. I believe it's more common than we could ever imagine. And because they are young black women, whether they're young or older, but to be snatched up, they don't get the media attention. Black women are devalued. Their lives are devalued. We're so quick to call each other bitches and whores, and you know, we don't see the sanctity in our women. And this is what I'm going to say. And a lot of folks are not going to like it, because I've had a few comments of people saying, well, you defend the black woman. You shouldn't defend the black woman. I know we have some sisters out here who have earned their hoochie degrees, but God did not create a hoochie. God did not create a whore, a slut. Yeah, we can use these names, and even they can use those names on each other. But it doesn't mean that the gift of life they don't deserve. It doesn't mean that. Because what would Malcolm X be if he didn't come through what he came through to eventually develop into the man that he became? What if his life was cut short as a person who sold drugs and did home invasions and robberies, right? And theft, rather. How would we remember him? There's so much bombarding the minds of our young black women. And without the father, and without that community around them, because we have neighborhoods, we don't have community anymore for the most part. What are they going to gravitate to? So when we see a situation like that, we've got to understand that we've dropped the ball. Even if well, I don't got no kids. I did my part. We'll do more. We'll do more. We're faced with extinction now. And our women are being taken off. We know the brothers are being shot down and marginalized and kept out of jobs and different opportunities. And many of them have fallen victim to these different influences that are out here put on us. And now it's self-fulfilling prophecy, someone else's prophecy, but we're fulfilling it. The projection of what they want us to be, and we're living it out. We understand that with the men. But our women also now. Always, right? But silently like this, 64,000? Let one Jew go missing for an afternoon and they can't find the Jew. Trust me, CNN, Fox, HLN, the media would be locked down. Amber Alert, you wouldn't even be able to use your phone until that child was found. But we have this happening 64,000 times in 2016. Yeah, 2016. Yeah. No, 2014 in July, right? Imagine that. What are they doing with these sisters of ours? Human sex trafficking, maybe in another country. Maybe some creepy rich billionaires have our sisters somewhere like a harem. What about the body parts? Right? They're stealing our body parts. Organ theft. Like I said, we are the junkyard for the world. See? And what was the Rockefeller name that just died? Was it David Rockefeller? Died at 101 years old. They say he had 7 heart transplants. Where did those hearts come from? So a David Rockefeller, if he had a chance to live 10 more days, as opposed to the life of a black child being precious, he could order that. Kill that child. Kill that man. I want his heart because I need to see the light of day for 10 more days. See where I'm going with this? So don't think that this system serves us like it should. We got to even stop crying about this system serving us as it should, because it doesn't. But we put so much into it. We have to look out for ourselves. Keep your eyes open in the street. Watch our children as they navigate through the streets, as they shouldn't be by themselves. But so many situations I see, they're by themselves. I'll tell you exactly what time it was. It was 9:48 p.m. down here in Orlando, Florida. 3 young kids walked up to me, and the oldest had to be 11 years old. From 8 to 11. Mister, when is the last 20 bus coming? And I'm like, wait a second. I didn't see any parents or mother or father. And I looked around and they knew what it was. Oh, we by ourselves. I'm like, who is over these children? And what if they never came home? This is terrible. And I'm going to tell you too, I have caught and busted and exposed several mothers prostituting their kids out here in the street. And I made the phone call and I made sure that's what it was. Over the years of me driving the bus, just from keeping my eyes open. So whether this video gets 100 hits or that, I don't care. I want to talk to somebody. If 2 people get it, I'm good. Then I can go to sleep and get my rest. But this is a long-term attack on us because our sisters bring us life. And for anybody who cusses that and says it's wrong, well, what about your mother? You cuss your mother? Well, that's what you do when you curse your sister, because she's going to be somebody's mother. And we're the only race of people that do that. Yes, we have a sprinkling of some, but en masse, and not all of us, but too many of us. Why do we do that? We know that the mind and mentality and mindset of our sisters, some of them might be screwed up. That doesn't relieve you of the responsibility that you have to nurture her, to make a difference in her life. And maybe we can't save everybody, but we can save a lot more than what we've been saving. Those 64,000 women had to be connected to somebody. They all couldn't be just crackheads and whores in the street connected to no one. Why don't we get that coverage? Why don't we use Twitter, Facebook, YouTube as a sword to chop the head off of this system that's taking our women off like this? But we're too busy watching reality TV shows. We're too busy trolling each other's Facebook pages, YouTube pages, Twitter pages, because the foolishness that we indulge in is more important than what's going on out in the world against us. Until it's you. See, we're all fine and good with all of this stuff going on until it happens to us. And when it happens to us, we want the world to stop. But we've been focusing on the wrong things, and we need to stop. Our sisters, they are the military manufacturing plant of our nation. The military manufacturing plant of those who come after us, who look like us, who will be our future. We're so busy looking at them as a source of pleasure, but we don't see them as the catalyst to bringing ourselves into the future, and they are precious cargo. Why don't we treat them like the precious cargo that they are? If their head is screwed up, they still have a womb. And a womb, that word sounds like home. Womb and home. Home is where you're fed, you're protected, kept warm, and nurtured away from the hostile world. And it makes you strong to be able to go out and deal with the world. So if your womb is not right, we won't be ready for the world. The womb is a very important thing, and yes, we can work on their heads and change their thoughts so they can impart wisdom to the children that come out so beautifully out of a beautiful womb. But if our wombs are snatched away from us and attacked and poisoned, what are we going to bring forth into the world? So we got to understand that that is very precious for us. And if we curse the womb, we curse our future. If we curse this woman, we curse our future. So I don't care what people who want to mix in with others feel that I'm wasting my time. Because you know what? Somebody spent time with my mother. Somebody spent time with your mother. And if we cuss our mothers, we curse our future.
Make sure to check out the boldest blog at LanceScurv.com and follow Scurv on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube under LanceScurv.